Varsity. I'm Ryan Aber, joined by the OSSA's Director of Officiating, Mike Whaley. Coach, it's been an interesting summer at the OSSA, and not the least bit amount with the rule changes that have happened in football. I guess first of all, the horse collar tackle, it's something we've heard about a lot in the NFL and college the last few years, but there's been a change in that in the way they call it in high school.
Well, I think that's what's going to be different for the fans is they're going to have to realize what stadium they're sitting in and which game they're watching before they get too upset about what's a horse collar tackle and what's not a horse collar tackle. The NFL and the NCAA have a horse collar tackle rule, which in some ways is similar to the National Federation rules, but in some ways isn't. So the thought would be that they need to watch the whole play develop. They need to let the officiating crew take a good look at it and see what the result of the play is. Because in our particular rule, the idea is that it's a horse collar tackle if they're grabbed at the jersey or the shoulder pad opening from underneath this ear all the way around the back to underneath the other ear. That just grabbing that, though, doesn't make it a horse collar tackle. They've got to pull them to the ground immediately with that. And we've all seen in Oklahoma especially that some defensive backs aren't as big as some running backs, and you'll get a guy that'll grab a guy and latch on for a ride.
Yeah, that'll be about it.
And so if that isn't the result of the tackle, in other words, if he doesn't pull him to the ground using that area, then the official should pass on that.
I know there's a couple other changes with the sideline officiating that maybe we'll see enforced a little differently this year.
Well, I think you'll see the coaches in the coaching box be very aware of where the officials are. We have a new rule that says that when the ball is dead, that there can't be anybody in that 6-foot restricted area, which basically encompasses the entire field, not just where the coaches are, but the entire field. And the coaches will be probably the first bunch that will get affected by this rule because they're used to stepping out and doing what they need to do. That's not going to be a problem while the ball's dead. But when the ball becomes alive, then they need to be clear of that. Now, here's the situation. The first time that an official has a problem with that, it's just the normal sideline warning. No yardage, nothing. The second time, it's a 5-yard penalty. It's a penalty. It's a dead ball foul. So here's the thing to remember. If your coach gets in the way while your running back scoring a touchdown, it's not going to affect the touchdown. So don't think just because we got a sideline problem that we're going to call that thing back. It's a dead ball foul. They'll give them the choice about whether they want to take the penalty on the try or on the subsequent kickoff. But that's just a 5-yard penalty. And that's really not anything different than what we've had in the past. What we've had different now is this. If it happens a third time, then it's an unsportsmanlike penalty on the head coach for 15 yards. And in high school football, National Federation, you only get 2 of those penalties. And well, technically, I guess you just get 1 because the second time you get 1, you get to leave. So that'll be very important to the head coach about keeping that restricted area. Now, what we're worried about as far as the Activity Association is concerned, yes, the coaching box, but the area that's outside the coaching box where we have fans, chain crew.
A dashed line around the field.
And we get anybody that can get in there. And that's still a restricted area while the ball's alive. So if the official runs into somebody who's, cousins of whoever's playing out there, then there's probably going to be a problem. So our game administrators all know about the restricted area, and we're hoping that through spreading the good word through folks like yourself that we can keep folks out of there while the ball's alive.
Well, hopefully we won't see a problem with that. Hopefully we won't have any coaches get sent home early with that.
Well, it's a rule that the state of Florida has experimented on in the last 3 years, and they have played, as you know, some pretty serious high school football down there. In the 3 years in Florida, they said they got to the third flag less than 5 times. So I think that once the coaches adjust and the fans adjust and everybody on the sideline adjusts, it's a safety issue for the wing official. And ultimately this is
a lot of times has to be running down the sidelines without looking at where he's going.
Exactly. And he's not going to spend his time trying to figure out whether that's clear or not. He's going to do what he needs to do. And if he runs into somebody, then we're going to have a flag on the ground.
Yeah. And one more change has been the halftime, which could cause the ire of some band administrators.
Well, what we have this year is that the football team must be on the field at the conclusion of the halftime. So if we put 20 minutes on the clock and we run it down to 20 minutes, when it gets to 0, that football team, both teams should be on the field. Now, where? They don't have to be out in the middle of the field. They can be on the end zone. They can be down behind the goalpost. they need to have a majority of their players out of the locker room and on the field at that time. Now, we've tried to communicate through Mr. Mike Plunkett, who's the director of fine arts there at the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activity Association. He has communicated to all the band folks as far as band directors, about this rule. I've tried to communicate to the game administrators. I know David Gore, our football interpreter, has communicated to the football officials and to the football coaches. And what we're going to try to do here is make sure that we don't get a flag on the head coach because the band, was still finishing their routine, which is what they need to do. If those teams are on the field in that area, I think that's going to be just fine. The issue would become if the coach didn't get them out of the locker room, and that's what the flag is there for. It's a 15-yard penalty, again, unsportsmanlike against the head coach. And if you were on the field when you shouldn't be in that box and then you were late coming out of the halftime, you could be done.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you for joining us at Varsity. And check us out every day at newsok.com/varsity for the best high school coverage in the state.